evening. It was the end of my 8th grade year when my parents divorced, and my mother and my siblings and I all moved to Mundelein. We did not begin in this community. But I did all my high school years here, and high school is really the time when you learn that you have choices about your future. And as I went through high school, it was math and science, I realized, were in fact where my interests lie. And I have to mention two instructors, Ms. Schwind in mathematics and Mr. Green in physics.
Mr.
Green. Yes, and it's amazing when in his classes he used everyday objects to illustrate physics concepts. And I really was fascinated by that. I soaked it up. But then he had this homework assignment for us to create a motor with a little motor with things you were supposed to find around the house, things your father might have, like pieces of wood and nails and dowel rod. Well, that was a big problem for me. My father was living in Peoria at that time, and my mother didn't have those things. So I scrounged around to try and find some substitutes, and corrugated cardboard and pencil stubs and toilet paper rolls. Just, well, when Mr. Green saw it, I think he was pretty embarrassed. More than I was, actually. It didn't seem to faze me. But nevertheless, well, the next year came around, and we had that night for all the college reps come and visit. And I was in a session that was the representative from Illinois Institute of Technology. And he said, he was telling us all about the great equipment that they had at the school, like you all have now. So I listened to that presentation, and at the end I raised my hand and I said, tell me about theory. And he looked at me and he said, if you want theory, you should go to the University of Chicago. I thought, what's that? I didn't have a clue. But I looked at that little handout that we had for that night, and sure enough, there was the University of Chicago representative there. I went and visited him, and the following fall, I was a physics major at the University of Chicago. Interesting. Well, after a couple more years, I think it was the end of my junior year at the university, I realized, having completed now most of that physics, those physics requirements, I really didn't enjoy labs that well. And I thought it was maybe time to switch to math. So Ms. Schwind won out, and I became a math teacher. After teaching 12 years in various schools in Illinois and California and South Carolina, finally settled in to staying in one place in Overland Park, Kansas, teaching at a community college there for the next 26 years, as it would turn out. Now, let me back up in time a little bit. It was the early 1980s when computers were just coming out, and my wife bought me a Timex Sinclair computer. I don't know, some of you old-timers may remember that. Old as me anyway. It was a little gray box about this big, and it didn't come with a screen. You had to plug it into your TV. If you wanted to save anything in terms of programs, you plugged it into your cassette recorder. And it had exactly 2K of memory. 2K. Yeah, not megs, not gigs, K. When you wrote programs, you had to be very careful about using memory. That was the key thing back then. You could actually buy, and my wife did, buy me the expansion pack that you plugged onto the back of the computer, so now I had 16K. So, really going to town. So anyway, after I moved moved to Kansas, I got involved there with some of the computer things as well, even though I was a math teacher. So we, in the era of when Mosaic was the web browser, that was before Netscape, which was before Internet Explorer, we actually created a web page. And that was a team project. But web pages back then were very static things. They almost always came with gray backgrounds because that was the default. And it was mostly text and links and maybe an occasional image. And you went and linked from one place to another. That was the beginning. And but after a few years, a colleague of mine and I figured out how we could make those pages interactive and allow people to actually perform mathematics through our interactive pages. And we created them for educational purposes. And for that work, a colleague of mine and I won the International Conference of Technology and Collegiate Mathematics Award. It was the year 2004 for our innovations in that area. And at that point, well, life started to change because now I got noticed. It's like everybody wants you to come and speak. Well, I had spoken a few places before, but now it's like the invitations started flowing in, and the opportunities for service and for leadership in various professional organizations came about. But you know, there were quite a few of them, but the one that was most interesting to me in the long run, and I probably didn't think about it much at the time, well, I sort of did, was the invitation to go speak in a place called Hradec Králové, which is in the Czech Republic. They have a small university there, and I was invited to share some of the work that we had done, so I did that. Now you have to understand, when the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred back in 1962, I was already in school. And one of the effects of that event was that the teachers, I guess the school decided, to teach us how to protect ourselves and hide under the desk like this. And when the communists came and bombed us, and they kind of expected that to happen, and they really generated in us a healthy fear of those people in those communist countries. So here I was in the Czech Republic, a formerly communist country, and I had what was amazing to me, a nervousness about crossing the border into it. But little did I realize that after another 10 years, I would be retired from my community college job and living there, teaching as a missionary teacher at the Christian International School of Prague. It's amazing the things that happen to you. You never see coming. Now I have to tell you, the students there are just like the students in probably any high school, any place. I taught mostly seniors at the high school there. But they came from a wide range of backgrounds. It's an international school. Maybe 30% were American, 10% were Czech, and the rest were from all over the world. India and Korea and South Africa, Nigeria, Bulgaria, Finland, Mexico, and I don't know, another 24 countries. What was amazing about that is everybody's a minority. Nobody really, it really lessened the peer pressure amongst the students because there was no majority for anybody to conform to. And they actually did learn to accept each other no matter what their background. The other thing that I really noticed in that particular group was in the senior class, there was only about 22 students in that senior class, there were about 5 or 6 real positive encouragers. So amongst the students, and this is not just in the senior class, but anybody in the high school or in the junior high who'd come into the building looking a little glum, well, they couldn't get very far before one of these encouragers would come up and put their arms around them, and boys and girls. I mean, there were encouragers in both sexes. and really help them over, take an interest in what they were feeling. So I have to say to those of you who might be at the beginning of your careers, the little opportunities in life can really lead to bigger things, but you'll never recognize it at the time. And even in an ordinary, put that in quotation marks, even in an ordinary career like teaching, you can have some really extraordinary opportunities. You just have to take them when they come along. Don't let them go by. And the other thing is, to everybody, not just those at the beginning of a career, be a positive encourager. Lord knows our world has enough discouragement in it already. So I want to say, in good Czech, děkujeme, which is thank you, to Dr. Gerard, Dr. Myers, and Dr. Kroll for having an event of this sort, because this really is an event of positive encouragement. I want to say thank you to my wife Ellen, who has been my positive encourager for the last 37 years. And say thank you to the Lord God who's made life itself possible. And to all of you out there tonight who took the time to listen, and maybe those on the video who might be listening later, thank you for this time.